Welcome back. Today, we are diving into some absolutely massive historical figures. I'm talking about names you almost certainly already know, like Adam, Abraham, and Jesus. But we're going to explore them with a really fascinating twist. We're looking at their pivotal roles strictly through the Islamic lens of prophethood. So let's jump right into this explainer and unpack how a single theological thread connects the very dawn of humanity all the way up to the present day. Here's a quick roadmap for our explainer today. We'll start with 1, the concept of prophethood, then move through 2, Adam, the first prophet, 3, Ibrahim and Ishmael, 4, Isa, the resolute messenger, 5, Muhammad, seal of prophets, and finally wrap up with 6, the impact on life. All right, section 1, the concept of prophethood, guiding humanity.
Okay, before we zoom in on the specific figures, we really need to understand the theological umbrella they all sit beneath. Like, what exactly does it mean to be a prophet in Islam? Well, our first key term here is risalah. This is the Sunni terminology for the core belief in prophethood. It's this beautiful concept that Allah doesn't just leave us hanging, He actively chooses certain individuals to guide humanity, convey His message, and, most importantly, practically demonstrate how to live a righteous life. They are literally the ultimate role models of virtue.
And equally important, we have the term nubuwah. Now, this is the Shia term for that exact same core belief in prophets and their absolute vital importance. Honestly, whether you use the term risalah or nubuwah, the crucial takeaway here is that these messengers are seen as a profound sign of God's love, sent continuously throughout history to deliver the exact same fundamental message.
Take a look at this visual. Notice how nubuwat, prophethood, isn't just some random side thought. It is intimately locked in right next to Tawheed, the oneness of God, and Adalat, the justice of God. The logic here is that because God is perfectly just and merciful, there's just no way He would leave humanity stumbling around without a guide. Prophethood is the exact mechanism for that divine guidance.
So here is a quick bird's-eye view of the major heavy hitters we'll be covering today. While the Quran actually mentions many prophets, this specific timeline gives us the essential historical backbone. We're going from the very first human all the way to the final messenger. Let's move to our first case study and see how this all kicks off. Section 2, Adam, the first prophet, the caretaker of earth.
Right off the bat, here's something fascinating. In Islam, the first man is also the very first prophet. This is perfectly captured in Quran 2:30, which says, "Indeed, I will make upon the earth a successive authority." That term authority or caretaker translates from the word khalifa. This completely anchors Adam's specific role. He wasn't just dropped on earth randomly. He was deliberately placed by Allah with a monumental job description.
Let's break down Adam's vibe here. He was given this incredible gift, free will. Actually, more than just free will, the profound ability to reason right from wrong. And yeah, as the famous story goes, he makes a pretty major mistake. He's tempted by the devil, disobeys God, and is removed from paradise down to earth. But in Islam, the story aggressively highlights God's mercy right after that mistake. Adam became Allah's vicegerent, meaning he was entrusted with dominion and responsibility over the natural world. He modeled righteous living for early humanity by passing down essential, practical survival knowledge, everything from agriculture to food laws and even proper burial customs. Section 3, Ibrahim and Ismail, loyalty and obedience. Jumping forward in our timeline, we arrive at what I like to call the ultimate father-son duo of faith. To really grasp Ibrahim's immense significance, we just have to look at Quran 2:1-4, where Allah tells him, "Indeed, I will make you a leader for the people." Ibrahim was this resolutely steadfast believer who faced incredibly intense trials, and his success in weathering those storms, that's what earned him this pivotal leadership role for all of humanity. Ibrahim's legacy is, quite frankly, monumental. He is recognized as a Hanif, a pure monotheist, and holds the incredibly unique title of Khalil, the friend of Allah. He served as this deeply fatherly figure, leading his people away from polytheism and idol worship, steering them back toward Tawheed, the worship of one God. And his loyalty, it's legendary. Despite violent, life-threatening pushback from his own community, he remained perfectly loyal. Perhaps most famously, he demonstrated his absolute faith through his willingness to sacrifice his own son when commanded, totally resisting the devil's temptations. Those events are actually so foundational that they're still commemorated today in daily prayers and the annual Eid rituals. Oh, and on top of all that, he literally built the Kaaba, the single holiest site in Islam. Which perfectly brings us to his son, Ismail. Let's trace his steps really quick.
Ismail wasn't just a bystander in this story, he was right there in the trenches actively assisting his father in building the Kaaba. When Ibrahim told him of God's heavy command for sacrifice, Ismail responded with complete, unquestioning obedience. His miraculous survival is marked by the incredible story of the Zamzam well, which miraculously appeared right by his foot out in the arid desert. And crucially for the big picture, Ismail becomes the ancestor of the Ishmaelite tribe. This perfectly sets the historical stage, because this is the direct family lineage of the final prophet Muhammad.
Section 4. Isa, the resolute messenger.
Now, you almost certainly know him as Jesus, but let's bridge the gap between what viewers might already know from Western culture and what Islam specifically teaches about this incredible figure. In Islam, we introduce Isa with Quran 287, and we gave Jesus, the son of Mary, clear proofs and supported him with the pure spirit. In the Islamic tradition, Isa is highly revered. He is considered a resolute messenger, miraculously supported by Allah to perform amazing wonders. When you stack up the Islamic and Christian views of Isa side by side, the distinctions are very clear. In the Islamic view, Isa is celebrated for his miraculous virgin birth, and he is a profound role model who endured great suffering simply for his belief in the oneness of God. However, contrary to traditional Christian belief, Islam teaches that Isa is not divine and is not part of a trinity. In fact, the Quran emphasizes over and over that Allah is far above having a son. Furthermore, Muslims believe Isa was never actually crucified. Rather, he was saved by Allah, and it's prophesied that he will return on the day of resurrection to establish Islam in the end times. Moving on to Section 5, Muhammad, Seal of Prophets, the final message. We've reached the absolute culmination of the prophetic timeline, Seal of the Prophets. That phrase right there from Quran 33:40, that is your main takeaway for this section. It signals that Muhammad brought the ultimate eternal guide for all of humanity. The long, ancient line of prophets officially ends with him. The life of Prophet Muhammad is just an incredible narrative of transformation. Think about it. He starts out as a poor orphan, yet he earns this stellar reputation as a highly honest and trusted merchant. His entire life flips upside down at age 40, when, alone in a cave, he receives his very first revelation from the angel Jibreel. Over the next 20 years, these continuous revelations are brought together and compiled into the Quran. He fiercely preached Tawheed, aggressively opposing the immoral practices going on in his hometown, and man, that brought him immense suffering and pushback. Yet he persevered. He eventually led an army of 10,000 Muslim converts to peacefully conquer Mecca and rededicate that very same Kaaba back to Allah. Today, his traditions and actions, what's known as the Sunnah, serve as the absolute ideal human model for Muslims all around the globe. Section 6. The impact on life. Why this matters today. Okay, so we've walked through all this grand, sweeping history, and here's the crucial part. Why does this matter to us right now? How does believing in these historical figures actually change a Muslim's behavior today? Well, the fundamental takeaway of Nubuwwat is that prophets act as perfect human role models. Believing in them means you literally have a blueprint for life. Their teachings guide believers along the absolute shortest and fastest path to success. By following their example, a person doesn't have to figure out morality from scratch by constantly making painful mistakes. The answers are already laid out for them. Building on that, we really need to touch on the concept of imamate within Shia Islam. Following the prophets, Shia Muslims believe God sent divinely appointed imams. Why? To ensure believers are completely confident facing any situation at all, past, present, or future. Because these imams have the unique ability to stay away from sin, they provide a guaranteed, perfect interpretation of the Quran. It creates this amazing system of absolute, unshakable trust and continuous divine guidance. Which brings us to a pretty massive final thought to wrap up today's explainer. If humanity has genuinely received the exact same continuous message of guidance from Adam to Ibrahim to Isa to Muhammad over thousands and thousands of years, how might that totally change the way we view our shared history today? It's a really profound perspective, showing a deeply unified thread tying all of humanity together across the ages. I'll leave you to reflect on that. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.